Wall soundproofing is one of the most popular soundproofing methods for noisy neighbours, and this video will help you whether you are using one of our recommended specialist installers or installing the system yourself as part of a home improvement project. Either way, most people don't know what soundproofing systems look like or how soundproofing is achieved. So we're going to show you how the process goes step by step from start to finish. Then you can understand how soundproofing works and how to soundproof your home. Our bronze wall soundproofing system is best for homes with a general domestic noise issue. We would class low-level domestic noise issues as hearing some conversation, perhaps a hoover or music. For stronger noise issues, we have two other systems that will block more noise from your neighbours. Before we jump into the nuts and bolts, let me give you an overview of the system so you can understand the preparations you're going to need to make. We're starting by removing the original wall surface and then installing acoustic insulation between the studs. After this, we assemble decoupled sound isolation clip frame on your wall, and then we install layers of soundproofing board. After this is complete, you can plaster straight over the top and decorate your wall. Let's begin with how to soundproof around a wall socket or a light switch. Sockets are problematic because a standard recessed socket box is effectively a large hole in your new wall. Soundproofing relies on high mass to reflect noises away, so a socket box with a low mass is a big weak area. The best option is to rewire the socket to another wall entirely, but this might not be an option for you. The second option is to cut into the plaster of your wall before you start soundproofing and expose around 10 centimeters of the electric cable. This will allow you to pull the cables through your new soundproofing wall. Some sockets have enough excess cable already, but most don't and won't be long enough. Exposing more cable in this way will raise or lower the location of your socket, so just check the new height works for your appliances. While working on the wall soundproofing, you'll pull the cables through and can finish it with a wall-mounted socket box. This is far preferable over a recessed box because it will only require a small hole to be made for the electric cables instead of a large rectangle to be cut out. As for coving, which most properties will have, this also needs to be removed. Because the coving is in contact with the original wall, we can't leave it in place as it will help to transfer sound energy into your new soundproofing partition. When you come to remove your coving, measure out the depth of the system you're about to install on the two adjacent walls. The bronze system is 60mm wide. Remove the coving behind this mark. Some coving will come away cleanly and can be reinstated after the installation, but remember, it's better not to reinstall any coving for the best soundproofing. When it's replaced, only adhere the coving to the wall. Leave a 2 to 5mm gap from the ceiling so that they aren't in direct contact. You'll see that this is a theme throughout wall soundproofing installation. To close up the small gap, use acoustic sealant. This is quite different from caulk as it doesn't set solid. Finally, it's time to sort your skirting and the flooring. The skirting simply needs to be removed, just like the coving. This can be easily reused after the installation, but once again, only attach it to the wall. Leave another 2 to 5mm gap, this time from the floor, and use some more acoustic sealant in there. For your flooring, a hard wood floor remains in place. For floor coverings such as carpet and linoleum, these need to be rolled back. Remove the carpet gripper strip from the floor as this will be in the way of your new system. When your wall is finished, you'll be able to cut the carpet or the linoleum to size and refit it. Don't install your system over the top of the carpet because you'll have a big weak area of low mass that sound can escape through, but also it makes changing your floor covering problematic in the future. Lastly, there is a slight difference in how we prepare and install wall soundproofing for a stud wall or for a brick wall. For a stud wall, we always need to remove the original wall surface. Now, this might seem extreme, but we need to access the cavity space, and if we don't, then the cavity space will create something called the drum effect. This is when sound reverberates inside a space and is amplified through the reverberation. In short, it makes the original noise even louder and harder to block. Only acoustic mineral wool can prevent this happening, So you can't leave a cavity space empty or with thermal insulation because this hasn't got acoustic properties owing to a low mass. While removing the wall surface is non-negotiable for a stud wall, it's a little bit different for brick walls. A layer of plaster straight over your brick is completely fine and can be left in place. If there are cracks in this layer, then you should fill them properly ahead of your wall soundproofing. However, if you have a dot and dab plasterboard surface, then this needs to go. A dot and dab plasterboard installation means you have lots of cavity space behind the boarding. Once again, this leaves your wall amplifying the original sound and makes everything a little bit worse. If you're unsure what you've got, then tap along the wall. Should the noise go from hollow to solid, it's a dot and dab surface. If it's solid all the way, then leave it where it is. The first step for a stud wall is to install acoustic mineral wool into the open cavity spaces. Mineral wool is a dense material and holds its shape. You can see here that we cut a smaller piece to fill the top of the wall, pack it snugly into the wall, and it won't drop or sag. Of course, we can't start a brick wall soundproofing job in the same way because it doesn't currently have any cavity space. For brick wall soundproofing, we simply swap around step 1 and step 2. Next, we are ready to install the most important part of this system, which is the mute clip. For a brick wall, this will be your first step. The mute clip is an isolation clip, and this is going to resist vibrations coming through from the other side. It also massively reduces the points of contact between the two surfaces. It works like any other shock absorber by reducing the transference of a kinetic vibration energy, in this case sound, from the source to another element. It's just the same as the springs on a mountain bike that give a rider a much smoother journey. We use a mute clip in a variety of situations, and it's been used in professional music recording studios because of the high performance that it can offer. Compared to the dual fixing clips out there, the mute clip is much easier to install, and the clip has only 1/3 of the contact area, which means that there is less contact with the original wall and all those sound vibrations which are trying to get through. To install this system, we create a diamond formation. Some clips are designed for a linear installation, but this means that all the weight is held by half of the studs. So instead, we spread the load evenly. It's easiest to mark out your rows with a chalk line, and because we have a single point fixing, you only need 1 mark per row, which makes our system simpler and faster to install than some of the others. Mute clips around the perimeter need to be no more than 100mm away from the adjacent structures. Each row of mute clips needs a vertical spacing between them of up to 600mm. To create our diamond layout, alternate the second mute clip position between 600 and then 1200mm away from the first perimeter fixing, row on row. This will give you the staggered layout that you can see here. Thereafter, space the clips up to 1200mm away from each other. Because most walls will not perfectly divide into these numbers, it's totally normal for the penultimate clip to be closer to the final fixing than 600mm, and this is absolutely fine. When you are ready to screw the clips into place, use 5mm by 60mm wood screws for a stud wall and a hammer fix raw plug and screw for brick walls, or appropriate fixings for your wall type. We have all of these details written down for you in the installation guide, which is linked below, so this makes your life much simpler. A top tip here is that the clips should not be over tightened, so you should actually be able to gently twist the clip from side to side a little. This prevents rigidity and ensures the decoupling system performs at the highest level. It will also make the installation even easier. Unlike the dual fixing systems, where the clips have to be fitted perfectly parallel, the mute clips can be straightened up as you go along, so the channel is much easier to fit. The channels come in lengths of 1.5 meters and can be cut shorter easily when needed. This can be done with a pair of tin snips or a junior hacksaw, whichever you prefer. If the channels are too short, then they can be overlapped like so and fixed together with 4 20mm steel self-tapping screws into the shoulders of the channels. The channels need to overlap each other by 200mm for a secure fit, and this join shouldn't happen over a mute clip because the added width can't fit into the mute clip claw. An important note here is that the channels should not make contact with the adjacent walls. This will short circuit the system and encourage sound vibrations to get into the new partition. The aim of this system is to isolate it from the original structure as much as possible, so watch out for these small details when you're installing it and use some packers to help you. The mineral wool can touch the original walls as it's vibration dampening, and this means that it won't transmit the vibrational energy. We designed this system to have a 25mm space between it and the wall. Now this allows acoustic mineral wool to be slotted behind the channels on a brick wall, which is an absolutely excellent benefit. With the channel in place, you're now ready to begin the layers of high mass. This is the part of the system that reflects the noise back. For our bronze system, we add one layer of specialist acoustic plasterboard. In the silver and gold systems, we use 3 layers of soundproofing materials, and this will block even more noise. The acoustic plasterboard is heavier than your standard option, but this means it can block more noise. To cut the plasterboard to size, simply score it with a sharp blade and snap. This can be a 2-person job owing to that extra weight. The boards are screwed to the channel system with 32mm fine thread drywall screws, just like this. Like your mute clip channels, these soundproof panels shouldn't touch the adjacent walls. If they do, you've once again short-circuited your system, so remove the screws and refit them correctly with a 2 to 5mm gap all the way around the perimeter of the wall. Once this layer is installed, acoustic sealant can be piped into the cracks and gaps we've just made. Make sure you use an acoustic sealant and not standard cork, because the acoustic sealant has a flexible set. This is what allows it to work like a mute clip and dissipate the vibrations. If you use a cork, it's the same as fitting everything up to the adjacent structures. Before the soundproofing wall is ready for decorating, seal the joins between your acoustic plasterboards with scrim tape. This will allow plaster to properly adhere. The wall is now ready for a layer of skim plaster over the top. When this is dried, you can install the new wall-mounted socket box for your electrics. Your new soundproof wall is finished. Of course, we are showing you how to install soundproofing on a perfectly flat wall without many special requirements. But if you want to know how to soundproof an alcove, a chimney, or a wonky wall, or other common troubleshooting issues, then check out the links below. We have a range of comprehensive guides that can help you to soundproof your wall easily from start to finish. If you want to find out more about iKoustic and our soundproofing offerings, then head over to iKoustic.co.uk or reach out to the team who will be happy to help.